I hope you enjoyed that opportunity to connect in smaller groups. We've had some terrific discussions throughout the morning. And our last session before we wrap up is another terrific panel of experts. We've described this as really that kitchen cabinet of resources that every business leader needs to surround themselves with. And so we've got 4 subject matter experts with us who are all going to share, each one at a time, their one piece of advice that they would provide to an entrepreneur or a leader to help propel them and their business or their organization forward during this very difficult time. So I'd like to begin by introducing Lynn Beachy, who's our human resources expert. She's going to kick us off. Lynn is a certified personnel consultant at Beachy Management Resources, and she has business experience in almost every industry sector, and she specializes in providing recruitment, talent acquisition, and HR solutions to strengthen her clients' teams and to develop structure and discipline for their business. So Lynn, welcome and thank you for joining us. And if you can kick us off with your 3 minutes, best pieces of advice for everyone on the line, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh, I think you're still on mute, Lynn, sorry.
There we go, sorry about that. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, Beachy Management Resources has, we've been around for 19 years. I say we, it is just me, but 19 years, mostly doing executive recruitment for clients, talent search. I have had to pivot my business over the years. We talk a lot about pivot and change and opportunity. And small businesses needed support. Small businesses need recruitment and support. So I have revamped my structure a little bit to partner with small business and helping them find good people for their teams, helping them set up HR programs. And I'm here to talk a little bit today, not necessarily about general HR programs, but specifically related to COVID. COVID has had a really strong impact on all of us. It's affected our business. I mean, the common theme here today is change, pivot, survival, you know, all of those things, and it's not going anywhere. So COVID is going to be here for a while, and we have to make sure that we set up our businesses properly. So we've been working with this way since March. We've all kind of gotten used to the PPE, the you know, wearing masks in the office and things like that when we have to. But what we really need to focus on is the people. And I think, you know, every person here today has talked about resilience, keeping your business afloat, you know, just working with our customers and building relationships. What about our teams? What about the safety and health of our employees? You know, Lisa Marie, you talked about that too, and you know, developing the sort of mental health as well as physical health of our teams. But you also have to make sure that your work environment is safe, that people know that when they're coming into work, that you know, you've put all of the health and safety protocols in place to make sure that COVID isn't in the workforce. We have to do our part in making sure that everyone feels confident. If we don't have that security from the people that are coming into work every day, then we're not doing our service. So health and safety is really paramount. Working from home is great, and it's a great solution, but not everybody's able to do that. We have manufacturing, we have accounting, we have certain offices that require people to be in the office at times. So a remote workforce can work for some, but not always. So you have to set up a COVID safety plan. That is the most important thing. You have to publish your COVID safety plan. Some of the things that are essential to your safety plan are obviously the mandated masks. Any public area that employees are going to be in, like a lunchroom, even walking in the hallways, you know, as people come into the door, people that have to be wearing masks, that's mandated. That is a bylaw now. So you have to make sure that you're doing that. And that's been in place for quite a few months. So make sure that that's part of your safety plan. The next is is, and this is most recently in the last couple of weeks, that every employee coming into the office should be completing a questionnaire, a daily questionnaire, making sure that they don't have COVID symptoms, they don't have a fever, they haven't been exposed to anyone. This questionnaire has to be on file too. So you have to keep that. So everybody that's come to work in the office needs the questionnaire. You need to keep that. If you don't, and the labor board has hired, I think, almost 200 auditors to come into offices and audit what they're doing. So you need to have a safety plan in place. You need to make sure that everybody's abiding by that safety plan. You have to make sure that you have contact tracing in place for visitors, the questionnaires. So developing a safety plan for your business right now is really important when it comes to COVID safety. So that's really what I'm just here to talk about. There's so much more I can talk about policies and work from home policies and all of that. But in terms of COVID, those are some really important key factors for you to keep in mind. And if you have any questions, by all means, you can let me know.
Thanks, Lynn. That's great advice. And I'm sure there will be questions for you undoubtedly, because the workplace and work from home, these are areas that we receive questions about regularly. So we'll look forward to hearing more from you in just a moment on that. I'd now like to introduce our financial expert on the panel and our sponsor for BDC, Marianne Wensler-Wiebe. Marianne manages the GTA West area of the Business Development Bank of Canada. And in this role, she leads a team of professionals dedicated to serving Canadian businesses through financing, venture capital, as well as advisory services with a focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. So, Marianne, we would love to hear from you next.
Awesome, thank you. And thanks to the Chamber. This is a great event and happy to be part of it. So by way of a brief introduction, and Carl has outlined it as well. So BDC is Canada's bank for entrepreneurs. We're a Crown corporation, so we're a little bit different. And we complement the role played by private sector financial institutions by our products in financing and management advisory services. So Small Business Week was something that was started with BDC about 40 years ago. So every year, thousands of entrepreneurs gather, they learn from each other, they're networking and supporting people like yourselves that are building businesses across the country and creating employment. So once again, Canadian entrepreneurs have shown their courage and ability. Have I used the word resilience? I think I've used the word resilience and pivot more in the last 6 months than I have in my entire life as well. But everybody's adapting. So while this is our 41st Small Business Week, you know what? In many ways, it's our first. It's our first because we're celebrating virtually online. So nothing is, there's no in-person events and all that. The second, this is the first time we're doing it during a pandemic. And then lastly, I'm so old, I've seen a number of economic downturns, but I have to say, I have never seen anything like we're experiencing right now. And we have spoken at BDC and my colleagues on the line with thousands of entrepreneurs since the pandemic started. And even though these past months have been probably the most difficult you're facing, we're also seeing, people rising to the challenge, and maybe a little bit of a light at this particular point. But that's why this theme, this year's theme for us is forging the way forward. So we want to recognize resilience and courage, but we also want to talk about what planning for the future looks like a little bit. Every year we publish a study, to coincide with Small Business Week. And what we wanted to understand was how Canadian entrepreneurs were dealing with the pandemic across the country. Now, what was unique with this survey, we also interviewed consumers because we thought it was important to understand how consumers' behavior has changed and what their intentions were, as well as understanding what was on the radar for entrepreneurs. So here's what we found out from the entrepreneur's perspective. There was 5 key priorities. The first, everyone said, I got to put my financial house in order, and I'm going to come back to this one in a moment. But the second, because there's a lot of common themes that have come up this morning, the second was taking advantage of technology, and primarily to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and simply to stay competitive. So the third was focusing on telework. Our employees are saying, hey, this working from home isn't as challenging as I thought. However, that we want some people to come back to work, and managing what that looks like, and supporting employees through that. Fourth, and this has come up a number of times, is selling online. Okay, so transitioning to an online presence and being able to sell your product. And this isn't going to change as well. As I talked in terms of, consumers are spending more and more and shopping online, something they haven't done before. And finally, entrepreneurs are working on, I'll call it reviving growth, okay, by re-examining their markets, their customer needs, their distribution channel, and their supply chains as well. Now, I'm a government banker. We're not fun people. I'm going to come back. My tip is on, coming back to putting your financial house in order here. So my piece of advice. So people always ask me, what should I prioritize? Now, more than any, is the time to really, really manage your cash flow. Yeah, it sounds simple, that in the height of everything, and even in our little breakout session, if Gail, I'm going to just call you out. One of the things she said was just like, I specifically knew at any given point in time how much we were short and how we were going to manage that. And you know what? As a business owner, you're in the same situation. Trim whatever you can from expenses that make sense. Analyze your cash outflows as best as you can. Collect receivables as quickly as you can as well. And why do we care about this? I mean, cash is king, right? Keeps your business afloat. You know who cares about your cash flow as much as you do? Your operating lender. So your bank. And right now, more than any time, they're going to expect you to understand your cash flow, your forecast, where your business stands, to have a meaningful conversation. Many businesses are approaching the fall now. They're coming off that 6-month principal postponement that many banks have provided, and they're analyzing what their needs are going to be. So clear, concise understanding of that. Now, this is where I'm going to pull a little plug here. You can't do this alone, all right? You've got to work with your trusted advisor. This is where your accountant, more than anything, is going to be one of your best resources as well. Financial reporting is going to be a priority for your business, all right? So if you're a year behind in getting statements done and things like that, you're on a path that's going to be very disappointing. Get things up to date and work with your financial advisor as well to, analyze what your interim statements look like, what your forecasts are going to be, have them challenge you and test your assumptions and things like that. So you're going to have a much better conversation with your bank, with your suppliers. That's going to be critical, and with any stakeholders that's going to propel your business. So while the situation remains uncertain, the good news is entrepreneurs are in solution mode, I'll call it. And while the recovery is choppy, we're seeing again, some light here. There is a recovery underway, in many sectors as well. And we're excited to be part of this new reality at this particular point. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Marion. That is great advice. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to think about, because I'd love to hear more from you about, is what is your advice for those businesses that are starting up? Because we are seeing a wave of new businesses that are identifying opportunities, or business leaders who, for a variety of reasons, are deciding that now is the time to become an entrepreneur and start their own business. So I'd love to hear from you about that in just a few moments, as well as there's a lot of focus right now on expenditure control. How do entrepreneurs make decisions about what strategic investments they should be making right now in order to set themselves up for success in the long term? So I'm just going to ask you to think about that, and maybe we can chat more about that in just a moment, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. Our next panelist is Lara McCulloch. I know that some of you have seen her at both our Wonder Woman conference as well as through another virtual offering that we unveiled earlier this year. Lara is an award-winning brand positioning expert. She has more than 25 years of experience as a business growth consultant. She's been a tremendous contributor to our chamber community and has helped many of our member organizations. And essentially, she teaches business owners how to become the only one in their industry instead of being one of many. So Lara, I'd love to hear from you, and thank you again for joining us today. It's always wonderful to see you.
Thank you for having me, Carla. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity again. So for those of you who know me or don't know me, I am a brand strategist. So this is the lens that I'm going to be sharing my thoughts from. And you'll also notice I'm sharing my screen. I tend to take live notes to help showcase my thoughts. So over the last 25 years of building brands, I've been through 3 economic downturns, and no doubt this is very different from what we've seen in the past. But I have studied and practiced really what makes companies thrive and others fight to survive in the long run. And there's one single idea that I want to share with you today that separates the winners from those who don't win the race. And the winners are really focused on where their customers are going. The others tend to focus on themselves right now. So I want to break down this idea into 3 micro ideas that I want you to think about in your business that's going to help you think about your customers and think about the future. And those are strategy, speech, and spending. So the 3 S's. So let's look at strategy first. Can everybody see my screen? I just want to see a thumbs up. Yeah, okay, beautiful. All right. So we're all faced with this new world. Businesses are being forced to close. Consumers are holding their purse strings tighter. And we've heard this word pivot over and over again. We've heard it today quite a number of times. So a lot of people are pivoting. If you look at strategy as an iceberg, as I've kind of detailed out here today, the area that we can see really clearly, it's obvious, it's kind of above the water, is this notion of pivoting. So a lot of people are asking themselves the question, how do I need to pivot right now in order to earn income? And this is what we kind of refer to as a reactionary strategy. Now, that might be a hard thing to hear, but the reality is that we're reacting to a situation that's happening right now. Bridget mentioned this earlier. She said, it's the reality of where many businesses are right now. It's a necessity in times like these to understand what's happening in the marketplace and figure out what we need to do with our business. But sometimes if we choose to only keep our eye on what is right now and ignore the future, it can have a negative implication on our brand in the long term. So at the base of the iceberg here, we have the area that really holds the iceberg upright. It's the most deep, the most solid part that begs the question, where is the market going? So where is the market going as a result of where we are today? And this question is really where innovation is born. Right? And innovation is really important in business. We need to innovate and we need to constantly innovate, but solely looking at the future without the today can also be negligent to our ability as businesses to survive. So we need to really focus on both of these questions. Both are important not only to our immediate survival, but our ability to grow and scale over time. So as a transition, we need to ask ourselves, is what I'm doing right now, this pivoting, actually contributing to where I want to take my business and where my consumers are headed in the future? Joseph touched on this when he talked about the need right now of online retail versus the reality that we will always be seeking tactile retail. So we have to be thinking about where the market is going to continue to go. So the options available to us as business owners isn't A or B. It isn't pivot or don't pivot. We have a spectrum of options and an array of options to pivot our businesses today to help us to survive, but to also understand what we need to be doing to continue to thrive as the market continues to evolve in the future. So the next thing I want to look briefly on is speech, or what we're saying to our market right now. Now, more than ever, consumers, employees, the general public are all looking to leaders to calm them and give them a sense of hope. And once this crisis is over, everyone is likely to remember how CEOs and business owners acted during the pandemic. So there are two different ways to look at speech. The focus of what we're saying, which is the focus is going to be on us as a business, or it's going to be on them as our consumers. And the volume at which we speak, we can either go quiet, which many businesses are doing, or we can be loud. So those of you who are quiet right now and making what little communication you are putting out there about yourself are going to be seen as irrelevant. Those of you who whose focus is on your customers, but again are being really quiet, are going to be seen as unsupportive. And the reason why here, and sorry, I'm terrible at typing and talking at the same time, you understand what people are going through, but you're not showing empathy and goodwill. And then there are those of you who are being loud with your communications, but making those communications about you, what you're selling, what you're doing. You're going to be seen as selfish, because it doesn't have anything to do with your market. And those of you who are communicating frequently, but making it about your customers, their needs, their problems, bringing them solutions to help them succeed, are going to be seen as leaders during this time. And a lot of the panelists who've been on talking today are really showing leadership. They're out there talking to people, they're out there solving problems. I want you to think and act like leaders. You really have a duty right now to be the beacon of help and beacon of hope for your customers. And the last thing I wanted to look at here was spend. So there's been a ton of research on this. Influencer Marketing Hub just did some research. Over 2/3 of all businesses are planning to decrease their marketing spend in 2020. Almost 80% are posting less than they posted before the downturn. So we're going quiet. And if we look at this as how much companies are spending on marketing, so either they're halting spending or they are increasing spending, as well as the time and effort they're putting into communications, they're either halting or doing more. The vast majority of businesses are silencing themselves. So historically, these are what we would call market bleeders, because what's happening is as they go quiet, somebody else is stealing their market share. Now, there are very few businesses who are actually spending and investing time and effort to the same degree that they were before the pandemic. These are the status quo. And then we have this amazing green area, which are, you know, and this is consistent with what I've learned through the last two crashes, is that companies who gained market share from their weaker rivals accelerated their spending and their communications. These people became market leaders, or they took market share from the market leaders. If you're not going to be in the green area, I guarantee that some of your competitors will. They will be stealing market share from somebody. So in all of these examples that I've given you, you can choose to make this crisis about you and what you need to do to survive right now. And I know that this is, it might seem a little bit heartless to make this statement. It's important that we have to survive, but we need to, as businesses, really shift the focus to our market, what they need, what they want to hear, what are their problems, and therein lies the opportunities for growth for us as businesses. So the last thing I wanted to mention, because I've raced through some of these concepts, is if you'd like a worksheet with specific questions to answer for your business, I've created a free one for Burlington Chamber members at this link right here, which is bit.ly or bit.ly/BCC or Burlington Chamber of Commerce COVID, all lowercase. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Wonderful insight as always, and terrific advice about the strategic investment and that opportunity that businesses have right now. So, and Lindsay has just included that link for everyone through the chat function. So we'll look forward to hearing more in just a moment. And then I'm really delighted to introduce our last panelists. Alex Doma. He is our accounting expert and also a generous sponsor from Bateman McKay. Alex is the manager of the assurance team at Bateman, providing audit review and notice to reader financial statements and preparation of corporate income tax returns. So we know now, and we've heard from others, that now is a time for us to keep our accountants close. And so we're really excited to hear from Alex with his insights. Prior to joining Bateman, Alex actually held a role with one of the big four accounting firms as a key member in their financial institutions and real estate group. So he's got a terrific background. So welcome, Alex, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning, everyone, and what a fantastic morning it's been listening to everybody's insights here. And as many of the speakers mentioned before, you can really feel the passion for business and passion for community coming through the computer screen today and in this environment here. But many of the speakers touched on portions of what I wanted to discuss today. As Carla mentioned, I oversee notice to reader compliance type work, and as David Kincaid alluded to earlier, those are our features, right? And the benefits that we'd rather everybody know about and use as their advisors, hoping to add value to everyone's businesses as a whole. So I can run through all the tax and compliance type of things, but that's quite a boring issue. So the main takeaway that I want business owners and leaders of their businesses and industry to take away from today is in this time especially, and at any time to be fair, is to really lean on your advisors, your external advisory team, whether that's myself as accountants or your bankers, Marianne, or insurance advisors or lawyers. There's a couple on here today as well. We're all here, and I think we take our passion from your passion ultimately, right? We want to help you succeed. We want to help your businesses grow. We want to help you navigate the great times and then also help you navigate the harder times. And of course, what comes with that is also the tax compliance and the opportunities that can come out of these various cycles. So as I'm sure everybody knows, the beginning of COVID was just a tumultuous time. The government was coming out with announcements almost daily. I felt like we were on the phone hourly, living by whatever Trudeau was saying at his 12 o'clock speeches, right? To spend the afternoon discussing that with clients, the opportunities that would arise, what this means for them, and then to do it all over again the next day. So from there, the point is that I know everybody and business owners as a whole were very caught up in how are they going to survive, right? So it's utilizing us as advisors to say, okay, that is our job to understand these programs, whether it's the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, the Emergency Business Account, Commercial Rent Assistance, even the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, right? CEWS, CEBA, CECRA, CERB. There's so many acronyms that were coming at us. They're just flying out of the mouths of politicians. So we are here to make sense of it all and to help you. You have enough stress as it is to run and operate your businesses. Ultimately, lean on your advisors. Don't see the relationship as transactional, right? Where there's compliance, you have a tax return to do, or a set of financial statements to submit to BDC. See it as what we want, and like I said, our passion is your passion, is utilizing us throughout the year to help you make business decisions, right? There are opportunities that exist that we as advisors might not know are applicable to you. It's great to just pick up the phone and call and see that more as a mutually beneficial relationship as opposed to a transactional relationship. So just as all those programs have kind of ironed out and everyone's finally understood them, there were recent announcements of an extension of CEWS, an extension of the Canada Emergency Business Account, and then a totally new program for the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy that's and these were all just announced. So again, the details haven't been specifically announced for implementation, but again, it's contacting your advisor, your accountant, to discuss these with you and what this means for you, should you take advantage of them, and the timelines on them. As these programs are ever changing and complex, it can be tough to stay on top of them all. Again, as Marianne alluded to perfectly, during downturns per se, cash is extremely important, right? So this is a good time to step back and analyze your spending, reducing your called burn rate, or reducing some discretionary spending, working out payment plans with vendors, and ensuring ultimately with your commercial banking team that credit's available. So Marianne alluded to and discussed making budgets and cash flows, and that's obviously something that we can help out with, and that's something that is very fluid, especially in these times, right? As Joseph alluded to earlier, in terms of pivoting your business, right? One revenue stream can completely fall, whereas another one picks up and takes off. So what your budget said 1 month ago might not be applicable today. And it might not be applicable tomorrow or in a couple of weeks when something else changes, right? We have clients that have been fully shut down, right? That are in Toronto right now in the hospitality industry or gyms, unfortunately, right? So they're trying to make do with their situations. And I know sometimes, again, going back to that relationship-based service relationship as opposed to transactional, sometimes it's just an ear to listen to your problems, and maybe there's something that our other clients are doing that I could bestow upon you and help you out with. So each situation is different, right? So it is good to talk to your advisory team as often as possible. And again, overall, this is a good time to take a step back from your businesses. Working on your business, not just in your business, can make a huge difference, right? We get so caught up in the details day to day, especially when things are tough, that we forget to take that step. And I know many of the other speakers went into that in even more detail, but again, just please lean on your advisors during these times. We are here to help. We want to help change your relationship from transactional to more relationship focused. And the more information that we have as advisors, the better business decisions that we can make with you and on your behalf. That's everything. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A session.
Thanks so much, Alex. That was terrific insight. And, you make the point so compellingly that, I mean, this is a very complicated environment and landscape to navigate in. There's a lot of change as the ground moves beneath our feet. And so it's complex for entrepreneurs. They need really, really great advice. And it goes beyond just that accounting support. It's that business strategy and making sure that you have that effective relationship in place with your key financial advisors and those who can provide that business strategy support. So thank you for that insight. And Barb Fredericksi has just made a really important observation in the chat that also getting good legal advice right now and having that relationship with your legal counsel is another important area of support. So we are going to move into the Q&A portion of the panel now. And Richard Burgess had asked to make a comment, so I'm gonna give Richard his first opportunity, and then we'll see if there are any other questions that come through the chat. We'll have a bit of a conversation. I know we're running a little bit behind time today. I do apologize for that, but such incredible dialogue and discussion. And we'll wrap up probably at about 10 minutes after 12. So we'll try to stay as close to a noon completion as possible. So Richard, over to you.
Thanks, Carla. That's kind of you. I wanted to build on something that Bridget had said earlier, talking about how the Chamber has been helping us. The way the Chamber has modified the way it carries on the business of the Chamber through this COVID problem, finding ways to keep us connected and helping us get connected with new people of the Chamber and providing these opportunities for information and education and development has been exceptional. Some of you, maybe many of you know, I've been a part of the Chamber and active in the Chamber for 25 years, on the board for 10, privilege of serving as chair about 15 years ago. Carla, Maude, Shauna, Ashley, Meg, Lindsay, and the rest of the team I can tell you, I have never been more proud of my chamber than I am this year.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, for those kind words and praise. Thank you. It's our privilege and pleasure. So kind of you. So I'm a bit speechless now, so I need I need a moment. And if there's someone else that has a question for our panelists, we'd love to hear from you. Any other questions? Okay, well, while we're waiting, maybe we can just go back to that question, Marianne, that I had posed to you about the strategic investment side of things. We'll give people a moment to see if there are any other questions for the panelists. And if not, I know it's been a very full morning, then we can move into wrapping up.
All right, good stuff. So it seemed like a two-parter there about startups first. I'll be brief on that. Starting a new business, regardless of a pandemic or not, can be scary, like that. But the reality is, if you've got a great idea to start a business, it's still a good time even now. And so a couple very basic points. Startups, like a clear plan, have a clear plan more than anything. And while Alex and one of the lawyers also had chatted, but the idea, some people think advisory boards are for huge companies and, with the board of directors, that sort of thing. Advisory boards are great for anybody. And you'd be surprised at the number of resources and the people willing to help you out with this. And, a chamber is a good place to start. Right? Like that, there's a great membership that you can tap on different resources and things like that, and using coaching. And I guess the one thing I would also say right now, exploit the buy local trend. That, and I don't think this is going away as quickly as when, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about, diversify, export, and, and all, and now it's like, we're all saying, how important is it for this business down the street for me to remain open? And we're all paying a lot more attention. Now, the second question was around, strategic investment versus trimming costs. And there are two different things. I know it doesn't sound like that, taking on new debt during, this time but the really, and I think Alex said, manage your discretionary spending as best as you can. But the reality is there are some opportunities here. So the biggest thing is don't be afraid of making an investment. But the most important part as you're, contemplating this is quantify the benefits to your business. Be able to really, if I invest in this piece of machinery, if I buy this building to it, make sure that you can justify to yourself, because when you can do that, you can probably have a better conversation with your bank around why this is going to help your building or your business. And frankly, we've been busy. We've been busy with whether it's acquisition of other businesses, we've been busy with real estate and, and more equipment purchases because there is opportunity with this. So thanks so much for asking that question. And it's been a great morning.
Thank you.
To play off Marianne's point there, two things that I kind of forgot to mention, albeit there is troubles in the economy and whatnot, but like Marianne said, there's opportunities at the same time, right? There's potential synergistic acquisitions that company may have a depressed value at the time right now, and it is the time to spring and purchase them to expand your own operations. Or one other thing that we do a lot of in-house is succession planning, right? So if you're willing to pass along the benefits onto your children per se, and the valuation of your own business has gone down, it's generally also a good time to look at these opportunities. And that's something that you should discuss with your accountant and advisor, because doing an estate freeze at a depressed value can defer tax further and further and further into the future, which is a lot of what goes into planning for our business succession planning.
Great advice. Are there any other questions? Perhaps Lara or Lynn, anything further that you'd like to add?
We do
Carla,
have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to note there's a question in the chat from
Yeah.
Linda.
Okay, great. Oh, yes, sorry. So it's about the buy local trend and how strong that is, and how long do you expect that persisting beyond the COVID-19 pandemic?
I don't mind jumping in and touching on this briefly. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier was recognizing what things are evolving as a result of what's going on right now. And that includes market trends. It includes shift in consumer behavior, shifts in consumer perceptions. And I think what people are recognizing, there's information that's being shared. You know, the fact that Amazon has grown in leaps and bounds, a big monolithic company during this time. And when they were having Prime Day, there was a big pushback saying we need to be buying local and supporting local. We've got local businesses that are shutting down their doors because of this. So sentiment with consumers is shifting, and they're understanding the impact of where their spending goes. So it's really important for us to understand these shifts in behaviors and really, really be constantly thinking about, as the world continues to progress, what shifts are going to remain. And I think this notion of local is really important. We've been hearing it before. We heard it before the pandemic, but the pandemic has just shone such a huge light on the importance of us walking in our downtown core and not seeing businesses shut down, knowing people who are solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and business owners who are having to close their door because of this. So it's having an emotional impact on us as consumers. So I think it's really important, if you are a local business, obviously, to be able to communicate to your potential customers that you are local, to spend their money locally, and it will resonate with them because it's something that's in their mindset right now.
Thanks, Lara. Bridget, you wanted to make a comment about this?
Yes, and I'll keep it really brief, but I just want to remind people that to connect in with tourism, and I'm not sure who's on here from Tourism Burlington, but we have a very, very strong tourism partner with Tourism Burlington. And if you think about your business, you may not intuitively think about your business as a tourism business, but it may be under this new banner of hyper-local. So I chair the as a volunteer with our Regional Tourism Association, which covers the vast region of Hamilton, Halton, and Brant. So, you know, lots of different local communities covered in that. But I want you to know that the provincial government has given additional funds to each of the 13 tourism associations across Ontario, strictly to invest in the hyper-local messaging and branding. So keep that in mind, that plug in to the tourism associations, and I'd be happy to follow up with people individually about what the opportunities are there. Plug in with our exceptional tourism association in Burlington. It really is one of the leaders in the entire province in terms of their effectiveness and their ingenuity and innovative. Really, we have a strong partner there, but there are additional funds, and it is in the past with local, with tourism, we went beyond 25 to 40 kilometers and all of the marketing was invested in that. Now it's completely flipped. So it's hyper local. So Pam and her team could speak much more eloquently to all that, but I just want to remind people, think about plugging into tourism, Tourism Burlington, and the Hamilton, Halton, Brant Tourism Association, which is branded as Heart of Ontario on Instagram and digital.
Thanks so much, Bridget, for sharing that. And, you know, one of the things we're very proud of in Burlington is the alignment of our 5 major business organizations under the Team Burlington banner, which includes the Chamber, Burlington Economic Development, our 2 area BIAs, as well as tourism. So we've been working really locked in step as a cohesive unit to share information and resources. And we do have our Team Burlington landing page on our chamber website. So absolutely great advice about dialing into that and taking advantage of the momentum that's building on that. Lynn, did you have any other insights that you wanted to share? Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think the only thing that I would add, along with what Alex talked about, you know, the financial support to businesses and stuff, from a people perspective, there's also lots of options there as well. We talked about all those CERBs and everything. I mean, CERB isn't around anymore, but there's, you know, the Canada Recovery Benefit. So for entrepreneurs like us that aren't eligible for EI, there are supports like that. There's the Canadian Recovery Sickness Benefit. So if we're diagnosed with COVID or we have to quarantine and we aren't able to work, you know, there's support there. And then there's the Canadian Recovery Caregiving Benefit. So if your child is sick and they have to stay home and quarantine and you can't go to work, there's also those kinds of support. So speak to your accountant about, you know, those kinds of things as well. But from a personal level, we're not eligible for EI, but there are supports there for this small businesses from a personal level as well. So just be aware of that, and be aware of that for your team as well. If somebody calls and says, I don't have any more vacation time, and you know, my son and daughter have to quarantine because someone in their class is sick, what do I do? Well, there is support there for people. So, you know, you can provide that kind of information to your team as well.
Great. Thanks so much, Lynn. And, you know, I really want to say a very sincere thanks on behalf of the Chamber and everyone that has participated today to all of our speakers, our very generous sponsors, BDC, Bateman and McKay, Lisa Marie Winning with the Investors Group, the Burlington Economic Development Corporation, the Downtown Burlington BIA that we work so closely with, as well as Kelly's Bake Shop. You know, it's wonderful to have such an engaged group here today, asking questions and taking steps to educate and empower yourselves. And I truly hope that, you know, your chamber is supporting you every step of the way in your journey. This has been an extraordinarily difficult time, but we have subscribed to the belief that we are in this together, and we have done our utmost to be your indispensable partner through all of this. And I hope that by participating in today's discussion and sessions that we've met the goal of inspiring and equipping and empowering all of you as we continue to forge ahead, and we will continue to do our part to help you.